Greetings, everybody. Redbeard here for another edition of Rasslin with Redbeard, the YouTube show where I take you to a professional wrestling event somewhere in or around the Carolinas to give you a sense of what it's like to be a fan traveling the highways and byways in pursuit of this great passion that is professional wrestling. I find myself here in Chester, South Carolina this evening for Action-Packed Wrestling. This is one of two APW franchises we have in the state of South Carolina, the other one being up in Spartanburg, that one being run by Jay Eagle, this one here being more of the action-packed variety, and the one in Spartanburg is American Championship Wrestling, or American Pro Wrestling, excuse me. This is the first time we've had a chance to cover APW Chester here on the program, so we're looking forward to adding them to our collection of promotions that have been covered. I will say, though, that this is being recorded on July 31st, 2015, and in the process of getting here, it has been announced that one of the true legends of professional wrestling, one of the real icons that I supported and that I believed in whenever I was a young lad, has passed away, that being none other than the legendary Roddy Piper, 61 years old. So the mood of this particular video may not be all that bright and chipper, because it's been pretty depressing to hear that news as you're driving up here to take part in an event that you normally would enjoy and look forward to and be rather upbeat about. But hearing that news did not help my particular demeanor at all. I was already having kind of a rough day as it is, but hearing that has really kind of sunk me down in the depths, to be honest with you, because I will be perfectly honest with you in saying that Hot Rod was a big favorite of mine. You need look no further than the fact that my wife and I, we have a dog, and his name is Roddy, named after Roddy Piper. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, one thing we all have to look forward to at one part in our lives is the moment when it ends. None of us live forever. We can just do our best to be prepared for that eventuality. Piper had been diagnosed with, I believe, a form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. In the past couple of years, he had been talking about the fact that he had been, I think, cleared of that particular disease here. And he's been one of these individuals who seemingly stays in the news because people always ask for interesting sound bites, and he can give you one like no one else. As early as last week, he was being talked to and interviewed because of the Hulk Hogan scandal. So it's one of those things to where we'll have to see what the eventual cause of death was. It's been announced from TMZ anyway, apparently, that it's being thought of as a death of natural causes. Not that that makes it any easier. It just plain sucks, to be honest with you, to have to hear that news. Because we've had a lot, it's not been an easy couple of weeks to be a professional wrestling fan, because, of course, a couple of weeks ago we had the death of Dusty Rhodes. Then here within the past week we had the old Hulk Hogan scandal, which to a lot of people that essentially was a death there, because you had this innocence that was Hulkamania, the whole, say your prayers, take your vitamins, and all that stuff suddenly get thrown out the window when it is revealed that, the man Hulk Hogan, or Terry Bollea, whatever you want to call him, isn't exactly up to those type of standards. And then now you have this. So the old saying goes that things come in threes. I think that really relates more to deaths than anything, but at the same time, like I mentioned there a moment ago, this feels like getting kicked in the gut 3 times pretty much here within the past 2 months anyway, or however long it's been. At any rate, we're going to do our best to bring some good coverage here this evening of the program. Looking forward to it still. They've got a main event that looks like it could be a pretty interesting contest. That's the real reason why I showed up here this evening. They have a best 2 out of 3 falls match that'll be contended between current APW champion Cedric Alexander and Rob Killjoy. Cedric Alexander, of course, is a Ring of Honor star. He's been a big talk, or a subject of a lot of talk here lately, because of the fact that he was at one point in time a mainstay with Premier Wrestling Experience, and he has since decided that because of some creative and business differences that he apparently is having with that group, that he's no longer going to be associated with them. He did debut here not too long ago for AML Wrestling, which is PWX's primary competitor in North Carolina as far as being top promotion, or being thought of as a top promotion is concerned. So seeing him here is going to be a treat. Rob Killjoy, of course, is another good name around here. Killjoy is the type of guy who doesn't get a lot of attention because of the fact that he's not the most polished look per se. He has plenty of athleticism, though. He's got a good look to him as far as being a trim athlete. He's not one of these guys who just looks like he's been eating at Burger King 7 days a week, but he's kind of the Spike Dudley type in that he doesn't come off as being a big muscle-bound guy, and he's not quite in the same league as Cedric Alexander or Caleb Conley and how they look, but at the same time, he's plenty capable, very agile. I've got a match of his that he had with Kid Chaos a number of weeks back, so it's going to be interesting to see how the two of them work together and how they match up in this particular situation, so we'll have to see how that goes. The rest of the card, really don't have any information on. Tried to get in contact with the promotion to see if they had anything scheduled or set up, and didn't seem to. They indicated that they've had some injuries and whatnot to deal with on their roster, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But as far as APW Chester is concerned, this is a promotion that goes back at least 7 or 8 years. That they were running shows whenever I was still living in Lancaster, South Carolina. I moved to the Midlands back in 2008, so this is 2015. You do the math there. They may be a decade or more old. I couldn't really tell you when their genesis was, but at any rate, they have gone through a couple of different buildings. They do have their own building here. This is not a rental type scenario where they're booking some VFW hall or whatnot. And in that regard, they're a little bit unique because you don't see a whole lot of promotions that have their own buildings anymore. Typically, you rent a gym or, like I mentioned, the VFW hall, something along those lines. But they have their own building. As you saw in the roll-up there, they have some signage, we'll call it that, on the outside of the building. It looks to be very well maintained, I will say that, from the pictures I've seen of the interior anyway. I haven't actually seen the inside with my own eyes, but we'll find out that here soon enough. Kind of rambling at this point. Don't really know where else to go with this particular segment other than to talk about some of the things that have been going on here with the recent news of the day. Of course, now turning to Roddy Piper. We'll go ahead and mention some of the things that have been happening with the Hulk Hogan scandal as well while we're here, just because that's one of those stories that's not going to die anytime soon. Hogan has apparently filed an additional lawsuit against Gawker Media because in his opinion, he thinks that the people behind the scenes there are the ones who are leaking these pieces of footage that weren't really supposed to be put out to the press with the intention of soiling his name and making him look bad, because he's got continuing litigation with them, and it's going to be a mess that we're not going to hear the end of for quite some time, I don't think. It's like I've said before, it's an unfortunate scenario, but at the same time, it's one of those things that you kind of had the impression that might have been going on anyway, because of the fact that professional wrestling and racism have gone on for a long time as something of a symbiotic type relationship. I mean, you have to look no further than WWE and the fact that when was the last time they had a black world heavyweight champion? Booker T? I can't think of another one that's been up that high. People will say The Rock, but The Rock has a multi-ethnic background, so if you want to throw him in that mix, you could as well, but still, a lot of their African-American characters wind up being kind of goofballs anyway. I mean, I know that they're doing a lot with it right now, but the whole New Day thing and whatnot, I think Darren Young did himself a huge favor, though. He and Titus O'Neil as well, in revealing himself to be a gay man, because of the fact that from a business standpoint, that gave him a lot of security there, because they're not going to, of course, have a PR nightmare in firing someone over his sexuality. It's just one of those things where it doesn't happen in this day and age. But still, there's a lot of weird things going on in wrestling right now. It's been a sight to try and keep up with as someone like myself who, running the Facebook page and Twitter account as I do. It's just been really crazy to keep up with all this stuff. And not only from a local perspective, because you got stuff with AML and PWX and CWA and all these other, promotions that are firing off here, Battle Zone, all these others. But then to have all the stuff from a wider perspective happening as well, it's just been a really tumultuous time, and I can't remember an occasion to where it's been like that, at least not in a long time. But hopefully we're in a moment here now where things are going to start to turn for the better. You hate to think that things could get worse from here, but still, we'll have to see where it goes. In some positive news, we'll mention that Bound for Glory, TNA's big pay-per-view they've got coming up, is going to be hosted in Concord, North Carolina, coming up in October. Going to do our best to try and get coverage of that event. The tickets are pretty cheap. I think they start around $20, so for a pay-per-view event, that's not bad at all. It's cheaper than what you could order it for. Of course, Concord isn't exactly a Sunday drive from where I am in the Midlands of South Carolina, but even so, it's going to be, I think, an interesting program to see. I think it'll be fun to watch. Of course, pay-per-views aren't something that we see in this part of the world very frequently. I think the last one, in my research that I did for a piece on the Facebook page, I think the last pay-per-view we had around this part of the world was in 2012, and it was a WWE event. TNA's run several pay-per-views in the Carolinas as well, but it's been a number of years since they've done anything in this part of the world either. So we have that to look forward to. A lot of local events coming up. A lot of good things happening here locally. I think CWA has the 11th anniversary show coming up for them in Orangeburg here in a few weeks. They're going to be hosting Shelton Benjamin, who's, of course, a Orangeburg native. He was born in Orangeburg, but he doesn't live there anymore, of course. Shelton has been a member of the New Japan roster for a good while here. So it'll be interesting to see how he is performing these days, because whenever you see someone in the States who's been a WWE talent, you expect that type of match. But if he's been, I'm sure, becoming more well-versed in the culture and in the style that is accustomed to Japanese wrestling, we'll see something likely very different out of him whenever he returns. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hopefully going to be able to attend that show, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, you had the announcement of the X16 tournament from PWX. There's a lot of people who compare PWX to PWG, and with good reason. A lot of the things that PWX does from a stylistic standpoint kind of resembles what PWG does. I know that there's an individual behind the scenes with PWX who's an admitted big fan of PWG. He's involved with a lot of their production material and whatnot, so it could be that that's where he draws inspiration from. But X16 is going to be a 16-man tournament that's coming up in September at a convention center in Winston-Salem. We'll have to see how that goes, but here again, it's a program that we won't get to see because of the fact that Winston-Salem has become this hotbed of professional wrestling, or at least it seems to have become a hotbed of professional wrestling, and Winston-Salem is just too far for me to drive to and not spend the night or whatnot. So hopefully someday we'll be able to get to some events up in that area, because it seems like a lot of promotions are gravitating to that part of North Carolina, but it's not something we can regularly attend, unfortunately. Would like to. If we owned an airplane or something like that, we probably could, but still, that's life for you. Here again, I feel like I'm rambling in this episode, so forgive me if this is going off into nowhere, but I think I'm going to go ahead and try and make my way into the venue. I think they kick off here at 8 p.m., and it's about 30 or 40 minutes away. That said, hopefully we have a good show here this evening. Have expectations for the main event, but other than that, I have no expectations whatsoever. So we're going to go in this into this particular show with a clean slate. I have attended APW Chester events in the past. I forgot to mention as well, in talking about their history, that they've hosted a number of the top names that have come out of this area. John Schuyler, of course, has been here, but the guy that people definitely will know from having seen him on TV is the man who was once known as Phil Shatter. Of course, now he's known as the former TNA talent Gunner. Gunner cut his teeth here. Gunner was the APW champion for a long time. He was a definite man among boys for a long period of time with this company as well. So it's a company that's definitely had a few opportunities to show themselves and to make a name for themselves in this part of the world, with talent like him being a example of what has been produced out of here. So we're going to make our way inside here now. Hopefully we enjoy the show, and hopefully there's air conditioning, because it is seemingly an older building, but I'm hoping that there's AC. If there's not, this may be a shorter evening than what I'm anticipating, because I don't feel like sitting around and sweating tonight. But at any rate, we'll see how it goes. We'll see you guys inside. How y'all doing? Yes, ma'am.
7. As a result of the disqualification, Bronco Ramsey and Bastard Savage.
Alright folks, we're at intermission about halfway through the show. Outside the venue, I'd say it's been a decent experience here this evening given the news of the day. Been harping a lot and talking a lot about what's been happening with the announcement of Piper passing, but even so, there was a 10-bell salute to Piper during the show, and also a individual who's apparently a supporter of APW here in Chester. So that was nice. The building is full for the most part. Have to give them credit for credit is due. You got people paying $7 a pop out here to come see wrestling, and they're definitely supporting it. So good on them, good on Chester. Decent little building. It's definitely an old building, but they've done a lot to maintain it. Lighting's good, sound's good. Ring looks like it's in good shape. Got a good snack bar going in there as well, so no complaints as far as fan experience is concerned. Ample parking, so can't complain. Wrestling's been alright. Been a couple of matches here that are very much an old school style. There's no strong style definitely here. Sorry, James Shaver, you're not going to enjoy APW Chester and people who are in that type of thing, but even so, it's been a pretty fun time here. Looking forward to seeing what the rest of the show has to offer us. So gonna head back inside, maybe get a drink and relax and enjoy the rest of the show. We'll be back here in a little bit to give our closing thoughts and wrap things up for this episode of Rasslin with Redbeard. Appreciate you guys tuning in.
Dripping in the bottle,
folks, there's our coverage of APW in Chester, South Carolina. I want to go ahead and say this was a fun show. Definitely picked up my interest there in the main event. Cedric Alexander and Rob Killjoy had a great match, 2 of 3 falls. Somewhat surprisingly, Rob Killjoy won 2 out of 3. Cedric did not score a pinfall. Typically, you know, in that kind of scenario, you have a situation where they go back and forth trading falls, but I guess in the show of support there, they booked the match the way they did, and I can't blame them. Like I mentioned in the opening of this piece, Killjoy, he's not the most polished guy. He's definitely in the vein of someone like Spike Dudley, Mick Foley. Actually, be probably, if you had to describe him, he might be, you know, kind of the bastard offspring of a one-night stand between a Cactus Jack and a Spike Dudley encounter, maybe, if you wanted to really put him out there. But that's not a bad thing. He's a talented guy. But Cedric, wow, you can see star written all over him. The footwork, the charisma. I mean, he's really come a long way just in terms of developing himself. But regardless, it's a fun show here. And I will say that if I was a resident in this area, I'd probably be at APW every weekend, just because of the fact that I'll give you an example here. For $7, you get in the door, and for a total of $10, that's including the ticket price. I had a tray of nachos and an ice cold Pepsi Cola, and I got to see some wrestling, and that was what I really needed here this evening, given the way things have turned out. I don't want to sound like I'm depressed or whatnot, but the fact of the matter is, you hear of a hero dying unexpectedly, and it really does hit home. But be that as it may, a lot of good fans here. These are the type of people who really get into it, and like I mentioned, you could bring your family out here, have a nice outing, and really enjoy yourselves for not a whole lot of money. Definitely less than you would pay if you were going to a movie theater or something along those lines. And the quality out here was good. Nachos were really good. I can't always say that. Like I mentioned, ice cold Pepsi Cola. So $10, not bad. But at any rate, that's going to wrap up our coverage. We appreciate you guys tuning in and for being a part of the program. If you enjoy what you see here on Rasslin with Redbeard's YouTube channel, please go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons. It lets us know that we're doing the right thing and that we're reaching the people we're trying to reach. As always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. There are links to those pages in the description of this particular video. Going to be heading down the road here. Not sure where we'll wind up next. Hopefully it's going to be somewhere with a cold drink and a soft bed. That's what I'm looking forward to right now. Just want to say one more time, rest in peace to Roddy Piper. Condolences to his friends, family, and fans. That's all from Chester, folks. We'll see you down the road.